The moment I walked out of my husband's hospital room, I thought my entire life was over. I had just held his hand for the last time. The doctors told me to prepare for the worst. His voice was weak, his eyes were filled with sadness, and he whispered the words no wife ever wants to hear. I'm sorry if I don't get more time with you. I walked through the hospital hallway with tears falling down my face, but then I stopped. Near the nurses' station, I heard two nurses quietly talking. One of them whispered, "She still doesn't know what he did." My heart froze. They were talking about my husband. I stood there silently, listening, and what I heard next changed everything I believed about the man I loved. My name is Sarah, and for 30 years, my husband David was my best friend. We didn't start our marriage with wealth or luxury. We started with love. Our first apartment was tiny. The furniture was old. The kitchen was barely big enough for two people. But we were happy. David always told me, "Sarah, as long as we have each other, we have everything." Those words became the foundation of our marriage. Over the years, we built a beautiful life together. We worked hard. We raised our children. We faced every challenge as a team. When David lost his job, I stood beside him. When I became sick years later, he stayed awake every night taking care of me. We were not perfect. We argued sometimes. We had difficult moments, but we always chose each other. That was what made our love special. Then one day, everything changed. David started feeling tired. At first, he ignored it. He said it was just stress. But after several weeks, I convinced him to see a doctor. The results changed our lives. David had a serious illness. The doctors explained that treatment would be difficult. There were many uncertain days ahead. I remember sitting in that hospital room, holding his hand, trying to stay strong. But inside, I was terrified. David looked at me and said, "Sarah, I'm scared." Those were words I never expected to hear from him. David was always the strong one, the person who protected everyone else. But now, he needed someone to protect him, and I promised him I would. For months, I stayed beside him. Every appointment, every treatment, every painful night, I never left. But eventually, his condition became worse. One night, the hospital called me urgently. I rushed there as fast as I could. When I entered his room, I saw doctors around him. Machines were connected to his body. His face looked tired, but when he saw me, he smiled. Even in his weakest moment, he tried to comfort me. "Sarah, don't cry." I held his hand. "How can I not cry? I can't lose you." He looked at me and whispered, "You gave me the best years of my life." The doctors later told me that his condition was critical. They warned me that I should prepare myself. Those words destroyed me. I sat beside him for hours. I told him stories about our life together. I reminded him of our first home, our first vacation, the day our children were born. He smiled, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. The next morning, the doctors asked me to rest. They told me to go home for a few hours. I didn't want to leave. Something inside me felt wrong. But David squeezed my hand and said, "Please go home and rest. I'll still be here." I kissed his forehead. I walked out of the hospital crying. I thought I had just said goodbye. As I walked down the hallway, I passed the nurse's station. That's when I heard voices. Two nurses were talking quietly. One said, "She has no idea what he arranged." The other replied, "I know. He wanted to protect her from the stress." I stopped. My heart started beating faster. They were talking about David. I stood behind the wall and listened. One nurse said, "He made sure everything would be taken care of if something happened." The other said, "He loves her so much. He didn't want her worrying about the future while she was already suffering." I couldn't move. I walked toward them. "What are you talking about?" "Tell me what?" She explained that before his condition became worse, David had secretly prepared Everything for my future. He had arranged financial protection. He had written letters for our children. He had even recorded messages for important moments in our family's life. But there was something else. The nurse handed me a small envelope. She said, "He asked us to give this to you only if he wasn't able to explain himself." My hands were shaking. I opened it. Inside was a letter from David. It said, "My dear Sarah, if you are reading this, it means I couldn't tell you everything myself. I spent my whole life trying to protect you. You always thought you were taking care of me, but the truth is you were the reason I kept fighting. I don't want you to be afraid of the future. I want you to remember every beautiful moment we shared. My greatest achievement was not my career. It was being your husband." I couldn't stop crying. But these tears were different. They were tears of love. I immediately went back to his room. When I entered, David opened his eyes. I held his hand. "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked confused. "Tell you what? Everything you did." He smiled weakly. "Because I didn't want my last days to be about fear. I wanted them to be about love." That moment changed me forever. David eventually recovered slowly. The road was not easy. There were many challenges, but we fought together. Months later, we returned home. The same house, the same memories, but with a new appreciation for every moment. I realized something important. Love is not only shown through words. Sometimes love is the quiet sacrifices someone makes when nobody is watching. Life can change in a single moment. One day you are planning tomorrow, and the next day you are fighting to hold on to yesterday. Never wait until a crisis happens to tell someone you love them. Spend time with the people who matter. Say the words you feel. Show appreciation while you still can. Because the greatest gift in life is not money or success. It is having someone who chooses you every single day.